the demonstration in Pyongyang. We are joined now in the Beijing studio, Mr. Shi Yinhong, Professor of International Relations and also Director of the Center on American Studies at China's Renmin University here in Beijing. Welcome, Professor Shi. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., we are joined by Mr. Michael O'Hannon, well-known scholar and also Director of Research for Foreign Policy at the Brookings Institution. Welcome, sir, for joining us. And he's also the author of the book, The Future of Land Warfare. Meanwhile, also in Washington, D.C., we have Yu Zheng-Lim, lecturer of Korea Studies at the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. Welcome to the three of you. First of all, how should we understand Ms. Lim? Since you are coming from South Korea originally, probably you have a better knowledge than all of us about understanding the mixed messages. The rhetorics coming out of the military parade by the leader of DPRK, while at the same time, South Korea, North Korea signing certain kinds of agreement and the family reunion we've witnessed over the past few weeks.
So first and foremost, I'd like to share my own general impression about this specific event. It looks like to me they are more for the solidifying domestic society rather than provoking against South Korea or other international society. That is why probably Kim Jong-un emphasized the people that much, more than 90 times within his 20-minute-long speech. He emphasized the people. The main reason probably will be, the main reason will be the economic situation. As we all know, North Korea's economic situation has been very much, struggling for so long. Even though the recent development is pretty, it looks like somewhat visible, but still their whole economy has been struggling so long. So it looks like for me again, as for consolidating his own political power or solidifying the domestic society rather than again the provoking against the some others.
Of course, there are some guests at the military parade. The Professor Shi here in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping, through the representative of him, delivered a letter to the North Korean leader and suggesting many times, as suggested in the media reports, the word friendship. Exactly how would you like to explain the mentalities and also the reasonings behind China's president's this letter and also this specific word? What exactly is China trying to seek with the current North Korea leader?
I think that everyone knows, especially since the end of 2013 and when Kim Jong-un executed Jiang Qianzhi and on some, evidence and especially his claims that Jiang Qianzhi is not so loyal to him, and he complained that at that time in substance that the Chinese relationship so-called with Jiang Qianzhi and so, and so it's dramatic that since 2 years of Kim Jong-un and Pyongyang's not so friendly attitude toward China, and also everyone knows that Xi Jinping's quite, principled attitude toward North Korea's and previous provocative, attitude toward world peace and toward the development of nuclear weapons. So, in the past 2 years, and everyone knows that Sino and North DPRK relations are not so good, but now dramatically, and Kim Jong-un and changed his attitude toward China. And also, I think that the Chinese government and the Chinese leader Xi Jinping take a friendly attitude toward Kim Jong-un. This is quite, dramatic development. I think that it's hopeful that Sino and DPRK relationship, which have past tense now, finally, and have a hope of a new rapprochement.
I
And
see.
this is-
After domestic politics, it seems that international relations, or at least regional relations, can be worked on. Mr. O'Hanlon, you've been a long-time observer and an analyst of the situation in Northeast Asia, particularly security one. From an American perspective, what do you think about these recent mixed messages coming from both sides? May I just illustrate 2 points? One is both our South Korean and the Chinese guys have been talking about the domestic politics. The other thing is China has been on really good terms with South Korea since President Park Geun-hye come into power. And also we've seen some believe as a bit distant relations between South Korea and the United States. What do you make of what's happening now in Northeast Asia involving DPRK? Mr. O'Hanlon.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Great to have you, sir.
I am encouraged generally. Yeah, well, it's nice to be with you. I'm encouraged when I see the countries of Northeast Asia getting along better for a number of reasons, but most fundamentally, the only hope I can really see to get out of this impasse with North Korea ultimately is for North Korea to try to carry out some of the reforms that China as well as Vietnam have carried out previously within the communist construct or system. In other words, I don't think that Kim Jong-un is ever going to volunteer to step down from power. He's not going to have elections. He's not going to propose reunification with the South taking the lead. The only real hope to reduce tensions is for him to decide on economic and then ultimately some political reforms within the North Korean system today. And of course, there are two countries that have shown how to do this, China and Vietnam. And so I actually am encouraged when China and North Korea get along better. I'm also encouraged when China and South Korea get along better because, of course, this is an important stabilizing relationship for the whole region. And if sometimes it makes the United States feel a little jealous because China and South Korea are getting along so well, that's okay. Our relationship with South Korea is very strong. It's resting on good fundamentals, and I'm in favor of seeing these good relationships in Northeast Asia.
May I follow up, Mr. O'Hanlon? Many believe for years that a stabilizing mechanism might be the six-party talks to deal with the nuclear issue, but at the same time, it's also a mechanism that world powers coming together from regions and also the rest of the world to talk about one issue involving DPRK's future, if the country is willing to change, of course. But then it has been postponed for so many times back in the year 2008. So are we seeing any hope, especially any momentum coming from the United States? I know this is last year for President Obama, probably not much thing can be done, but still the last page could be some possibility as well, some say. What do you think, Mr. O'Hanlon? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel, though the tunnel is very short now?
Well, it's a good question, and I think you're right to suggest that even though it's Mr. Obama's last year, that he does still have over a year, and we know from his presidency that he has tried to reach out to regimes that have historically not had good relations with the United States, and we know that includes Cuba, Burma, or Myanmar, and also now to some extent Iran. And of course, he's been frustrated in dealing with Russia. But even with Russia, he tries to maintain some degree of dialogue. And so perhaps, as you say, the six-party talks could be a useful mechanism. It's now been several years since North Korea's true provocations of the sinking of the Chonan in 2010, the nuclear weapons test in 2013. And so perhaps we can begin to be a little bit more hopeful and try to give that six-party approach a new attempt. Obviously, we should stay very firm on our core principles that North Korea must denuclearize and must accept the South. But I think the idea of resuming those talks may be a good idea for 2016.
Ms. Lim, though, do you think there is much hope about that? Because we have to see, as some suggest, that both parties, they were saying DPRK and United States, have to be willing to come together and make certain kinds of compromises toward one another. Is there a possibility from a South Korean's perspective, what can be done, really, briefly from you?
That is why the President Park's presence this week, actually, in Washington, and her summit with the President Obama is super critical compared to any other previous summits with the President Obama. This might be a kind of her last visit during President Obama's years. So next year, as we all know, this whole city, Washington, will be pretty occupied with the presidential election. So this might be a very critical chance, for both presidents to accomplish some substantial dialogues and to show, again, the strong alliance relationship between South Korea and the United States. And I hope, or I expect these two presidents can show some positive signals to the Pyongyang as well.
Well, we hope that hope will come true, but let's come back to Professor Shi in Beijing.
Right.
We see some interesting things. Remember, the letter being delivered to the DPRK leader from Chinese President Xi Jinping happened after Chinese President Xi Jinping's summit meeting with the US President Barack Obama. And also, they were talking to a certain extent about the peace and stability in Northeast Asia. Of course, nobody knows exactly whether this has anything to do with any final results of the talk, but Professor Shi, shed some light for us. What is China's role now, especially when there is an incumbent power such as the United States, a rising power like China? What does the two countries need to create this synergy? Is DPRK, six-party talk, an opportunity?
And in terms of the possibility of opening and six-party talks, unfortunately that I think that the American expert O'Hanlon and the South Korean expert Lin, and in my personal view, is a little too optimistic, because if you listen to message from Pyongyang and Kim Jong-un still insist on the full rights of the nuclear weapons and by implication full rights of the develop long-range missiles, and also he insists on, and North Korea will insist on so-called military first. And what is principle and change is North Korea's attitude toward China. So,
I see.
and from now on, Obama's position and American position is quite so-called regional principle, because he insisted that the six-party talks must be conditional, that North DPRK must be an principle committed to denuclearization and take some concrete actions in the first step to prove its intention. And South Korea and Seoul's message is the same. So I think that, but Kim Jong-un and do not say anything that he will accept a conditional reopening of six-party talks. So I think that China, of course, with best intention to hope the situation change, but still other sides have difficulties.
Wow, you throw your words over there. Still, other sides have to work their way out of this. We want to thank the three of you for participating in this round of discussion. This is, of course, an extremely important topic. We hope we will have future opportunity to tackle it as well. Thank you so much, Michael O'Hanlon, coming from Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, also in D.C., Yu Jung Lim, and also here in Beijing, Professor Shi Yinhong. Thank you so much for your contribution and insight, the three of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.